The Green Bay Packers didn't trade for Micah Parsons to start slow. They traded for him to control games from week one. And now, before the season even begins, that plan is already under pressure because missing 3 or 4 games isn't just a timeline. It's a disruption to everything they built this defense around. Let's start with the context. The Green Bay Packers paid a massive price for Parsons, multiple first-round picks, and a starting-level player. That's not a move for depth. That's a declaration. You bring in Parsons to be the centerpiece, the disruptor, the player offenses have to solve every single snap. But late last season, the ACL injury changes the equation. Now, the expectation is clear. He misses the first month, and suddenly, the most important player in their defensive structure isn't available when the system needs to establish itself. The obvious narrative is simple. It's early season absence. Manageable. Survive a few games, get Parsons back, and the defense elevates. Teams deal with injuries all the time, and if you structure your roster correctly, you absorb it. That's the surface level logic. But here's the problem. Parsons isn't a replaceable piece. He's not even a traditional edge rusher. He's a pressure generator who dictates how offenses operate before the snap. Without him, you're not just losing production, you're losing identity. Let's go deeper. Parsons forces offenses into predictable behavior. Extra protection, quick throws, condensed playbooks. That simplifies things for the rest of the defense. Linebackers react faster, secondary reads cleaner routes, everything becomes more controlled. Take him out, and that clarity disappears. Now quarterbacks have time. Now protections hold. Now coverage has to sustain longer. And that's where breakdowns begin. Clipping moment number 1, you don't replace Micah Parsons' sacks. You replace the fear he creates, and that's much harder. Now, layer in roster context. The Packers already lost edge depth. No Rashan Gary, no Kingsley Enagbare. That leaves a young, unproven group led by Lukas Van Ness. Talent is there, experience is not. And early in the season, experience matters more than talent because offenses are sharper, timing is cleaner, mistakes are punished immediately. Now consider the coaching layer. New defensive coordinator. Jonathan Gannon steps in after Jeff Hafley departs. New system, new terminology, new responsibilities. And the one player who could simplify that transition, Parsons, isn't on the field. That's not just inconvenient, that's destabilizing. Clipping moment number 2. A new system without its best player doesn't evolve. It hesitates. Because here's what happens under pressure. When a defense lacks a dominant pass rusher, everything has to be more precise. Blitz timing, coverage rotations, gap discipline, there's no margin for error, and early in the season, precision is the hardest thing to achieve. Now let's get to the hidden factor. It's not just about defense, it's about how this impacts the entire team. Without Parsons generating consistent pressure, games become longer, drives extend, time of possession shifts, and that puts more pressure on the offense, more scoring responsibility, more urgency, which changes quarterback decision-making, faster reads, tighter windows, higher risk. So even though this starts as a defensive issue, it becomes a team-wide pressure problem. Now we reach the turning point. It's not when Parsons returns, it's how the Packers choose to survive without him. Do they stay aggressive? Blitz more. Create artificial pressure, accept risk in coverage, or do they play conservative, protect the secondary, limit big plays, hope to contain? That decision defines the first month of the season because each approach has consequences. Aggression creates volatility, conservatism creates stagnation, and choosing wrong early can cost games you can't get back. Clipping moment 3. The season won't be defined when Parsons returns. It will be defined by how they survive before he does. Now zoom out. What does this mean long term? If the Packers manage this stretch, if they stay competitive, keep the defense functional, then Parsons' return becomes a catalyst. The unit elevates, the identity locks in, the investment pays off. But if they stumble, if the defense struggles to generate pressure, if early losses stack up, then Parsons' return becomes recovery, not elevation. And that's a completely different trajectory. There's also a developmental impact. Young players forced into larger roles early either accelerate or get exposed. There's no middle ground, and that shapes the depth of this team for the rest of the season. In the end, the injury update isn't the real story. The timeline isn't the real story. The real story is pressure, how it's created, how it's managed, and how its absence changes everything. Because the Packers didn't trade for Micah Parsons to be part of the defense. They traded for him to define it. And for the first month of the season, they're going to have to figure out who they are without him. This is the risk they knew, and now it's real. Because when the Green Bay Packers went all in to trade for Micah Parsons, they weren't just buying talent, they were buying dominance. And now they're starting the season without it. 3 to 4 games. That's the timeline. Not catastrophic, but just long enough to matter. Because in the National Football League, September shapes everything. Momentum, identity, confidence. And the Packers won't have their most disruptive player when it starts. That's the tension. Because Parsons isn't just another edge rusher. He's the plan, the centerpiece, the player offenses have to account for before anything else even begins. The reason protections shift, the reason quarterbacks speed up. Take that away, everything changes, and it gets worse. This isn't just about injury, it's about timing. Parsons went down late last season, ACL tear. The kind of injury that doesn't just heal, it lingers. It tests explosiveness, confidence, reaction time, and now he's racing the clock, trying to beat it, because that's who he is. But the Packers can't afford to rush this, not after what they gave up. 2 first-round picks, a starting caliber player, a massive investment that only pays off if Parsons is elite, not just available. That's the turning point, because now Green Bay has to decide how to survive without him. And right now, that answer isn't clear. They've already lost depth. Rashan is gone. Kingsley Enagbare is gone. What's left? A young, unproven room led by Lukas Van Ness, talented but not ready to carry an entire pass rush alone. Which means help is coming. Or it has to. Veteran names like Jadeveon Clowney and Leonard Floyd are still out there. Proven players, not game changers anymore, but stabilizers, stopgaps. And right now, that might be enough. Because there's another layer to this problem, a new voice. With Jonathan Gannon stepping in after Jeff Hafley left, this defense is already adjusting. New schemes, new responsibilities, new expectations, and now, no Parsons to anchor it early. That's a lot to manage, a lot to hide, a lot to survive. Because if the Packers stumble out of the gate, if those first few games turn into losses, the pressure doesn't wait for Parsons to come back. It builds fast. And when he does return, he won't just be joining a defense, he'll be trying to save one. That's the reality now, because this wasn't supposed to be a slow start. It was supposed to be a takeover. And instead, Green Bay is starting the season holding its breath, waiting for the player they built everything around to finally step back on the field.